Welcome back to the Get Your Life Back Summit. This is our very last interview, and I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Marnie Loomis. Dr. Marnie Loomis is a naturopathic physician, speaker, and natural medicine expert known for her witty and engaging style, which is so true. Marnie, tell the story about how we met, and welcome to the summit.
Thank you very much. I am so excited to be here, and thank you for holding the summit. It's just wonderful. We met outside of a Toastmasters meeting. We were both looking to join the same Toastmasters group and started talking about our areas of passion, what we really wanted to speak about once we got our speaking skills more refined, and found out that we both were so excited to talk to people about burnout and how to help themselves. And as we talked more and more, we found that our ways of approaching burnout seem to really complement each other really, really well. And I remember that conversation, right? We didn't even finish at that meeting. We took it to a second location. We went and sat on a picnic table outside and sat and chatted for a couple of hours, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we did. And it was the summertime. It was in July, and our conversation was ended when the sprinklers came on in that park and we got wet.
Yes, I remember. But up until then, man, that was a heck of a conversation. And I knew we had a lot more work to do together, because just that one conversation, things were clicking and clicking and clicking.
We were both taking notes halfway into it. It was really pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, good. Now we've got even more, because I remember both of us were equally excited about the topic, in part because of our own processes. We were had been burnt out, and were looking to find ways out, and we had already partially gotten our way out, ourselves out of burnout, and wanted to help other people who were where we used to be. But also that other part of being partly out of burnout, seeing that we had more to go, but looking back and saying there are too many other people back there still in that deep, dark hole of burnout, and let's help them out as well. We had a lot of passion for that. We both did, and it was exciting to find someone else who could be a team member, work together, and help this become a reality. Because I think we had both found that we knew the answers were there. There just wasn't a great resource that said, here's the pathway, put all of these things together. Here's your strategy for your way out. And
exactly. And you were the one that brought me to the realization that there weren't just some good information out there that was very helpful. I had some books to bring to the table that I'd read that I thought were great, but you were the one that said there's 4 decades of actual medical research on this, and my jaw just dropped. It's like, there is where? And so we started digging through that. That was fascinating and exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. It's reassuring to know that burnout has been a big enough problem that it's been acknowledged and it's been studied, and people have looked at it from all these different perspectives. And the only downside was that a lot of the burnout research came up with very helpful strategies, big picture strategies for organizations. And it was like, oh, great. If I happen to be in an organization or ran an organization, I had so much information at my fingertips to help me help other people. But as far as being a person within an organization that wasn't yet in control of all those other factors and variables, then that's where I felt like, whoa, we need more tools for those people, how to strategize their own recovery.
We started talking about it as pillars. And for a while we talked about foundations, and then we talked about insulators, and we ended up with a shield. That was really a fun evolution, to have those 5 areas turn into a shield. Yeah. Tell us more about the shield, because I'm just so proud that we have that now.
Yes. Well, I remember it came down to almost working backwards from when I was at my most stressed. And I remember it was, lots of things going on, running a practice, 2 young children, lots and lots of life stressors. And then on top of it, my grandmother passed away. And under all of that stress, I remember I got myself to work, but my clothes were not quite right. I'm glad I wore pants, but I did have my shirt, my blouse under my jacket was inside out and backwards. And I remember thinking, and all day I kept thinking, people are staring at me. They know something's wrong. I'm just going through a tough time. And they're looking at this little tag flapping up. But I remember thinking, okay, if I'm under so much stress that the clothing part gets messed up, like there must be some basic things that I will take care of when I'm under stress that I make sure are there. I made sure I had clothes covering my body, but it got real shaky about how I put them on properly or not. No, not really. At least it covered my body before I went in public. And so I remember thinking there must be some basic foundations of what we will make sure we do before we cut them out, no matter when we're under high stress, because goodness knows that like eating regular meals, that one got cut out a long time ago. People cut out lunch or dinner when they've got lots to do. Doing basic things like going to the bathroom, you just fine, hold it, go see another patient or whatever. And those are some basic things that you think you take care of, but they get cut out when you are under stress. And then, so what are the really basic areas that we need to acknowledge are there? And then there's kind of a gradient along those basic areas that, like when you're under just a little bit of stress, you start to chip away at them. And then as you get under a lot of stress, it starts getting really close to the quick of like, this is some basic stuff. You've got clothes covering your body, but they're not on properly. I don't know if you can hear that. My dog's in the background and he's chewing on his dog toy. If you can hear the squeaking, I can go ask him to stop. You can go try to give him a non-squeaky toy. Sorry if that's getting
not a big problem.
But that was, I remember working backwards from like, there must be some basic areas. And then I started looking through the research, and we started just scouring all these studies, hundreds of studies on burnout and also stress and anything that looked at populations of people where some of them, when they were all under the same amount of stress, but some of them were affected by the stress negatively and some of them weren't. And what were the areas that were different in their lives? Did they have supportive partners, or did they have better balanced diets, or whatever was included in that research we wanted to know? And so we took all those pieces and just started grouping together what those factors were. And we looked for areas where they coalesced around certain areas of life. And that's where it became really evident that there was like an area of where self-care, feeding yourself, taking care of yourself in the basic ways when you're sick, having time to take care of yourself, getting sleep, those kind of things. That was definitely an area that you would chip away at when you are under stress and under pressure to take care of others. Those were things you started to do less and less of, but it was still an important part for taking good care of yourself. And the other area was like, your community, the people around you who help you out, how much time you spend with them. Sometimes not all those people in your community help you out. Sometimes it's all you helping them, but there was that connection. There is some piece of that where your people in your community are helpful to you. And then just like your capacity, how much stress can you take on? Some people have a great deal of capacity. Other people, they've only got a limited capacity, but if they know where that capacity is, then they can work right up to that capacity, and they do just fine as long as they know their limits. And then those other areas were coping styles, and how well do you cope with stress, and have you developed them? Because coping styles. I remember we were talking about this. Like some people are just born with amazing coping styles, just like people are born as good cooks, but not everyone's a good cook. It doesn't mean you can't become a good cook. You just learn how to become a good cook by taking lessons and learning to build those skills. So that coping style was one big area. And then the patterns of like the habits of reflection and recognition. So reflecting, that's just that act of reflecting on things you've got gratitude about, or reflecting on your own process and thinking about things rather than from a quick reaction kind of thing, but also reflecting on things. And then recognition, like how much recognition are you giving yourself, and how much recognition are giving othose around you. And those 5 areas were really those 5 pillars where the research seemed to kind of group together. These are major important areas that when you're dealing with burnout, you've got to keep them around you and at least at some point, in some degree, and you should stay pretty darn balanced and pretty healthy.
So listening to this, I'm thinking that I should show people what you're talking about, that this is the book that we wrote together. And this is, let's see if I can get it close enough. Tell me, Marnie, if I've got it here. The picture of the Burnout Shield. Is that legible there?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So, and the 3 zones outside of the logo there are protected as the, well protected is the outside, and then adequate protection is the middle zone, and vulnerable is the inside zone. And you can kind of chart those 5 areas and find out what your shield looks like by connecting the dots and coloring it in.
Yeah. I remember there were, you and I were both talking about all these really helpful tips we'd read about or maybe listened to lectures about and tried out, and they were helpful. And then, as a physician, I was thinking they're all helpful, but like with diabetes, if you've got diabetes, it's a very complicated condition. You've got to keep a lot of things in your sight and make sure that they're all taken care of all at once. And with burnout, I could tell there's a framework here within which we can keep someone from getting burnt out, but we needed to identify what's that framework. And so
I remember you kind of vanished for a day or two, and you were like, don't talk to me, I'm thinking about this. And you came back with these 5 categories, and we played with the names a lot, but you had this beautiful assembly of, okay, we took this 60-some collection of tips and necessary foundations and organized them into a system where it wasn't overwhelming anymore. It was obvious, and you could plug in whatever new thing that you'd learned. It fits somewhere on that schema so that you could kind of keep it all.
Yeah. That was the other thing, is that once a system was developed, it had to fit everyone I could think of who had any sort of stress, any patient I'd worked with burnout, any friend I'd helped, any student I'd worked with. And I had to think, okay, if I thought about that person and the things that were affecting them, what does it fit into this system, and the things that were affecting them negatively, and then the things that we had done to help them, does that fit into the system as well? Yes, it does. Okay, yes, the system seems to work really well. But I remember in those 2 days, I still have some of my notes. I would buy these giant pieces, like notepads of giant paper, and I'd have colored markers, and it looked like it's a little insane, kind of like those people who are tracking a crime. You got the string from thing to thing on the board. Like, my house was just a mess. There were papers and books and research things and things circled in bright red and orange, and my sweet children were very, very good at education. Oh my goodness. But yeah, very exciting. And then once we figured out that pattern and that it worked, then we had the framework and we could plug everything else into it.
You just got some feedback from somebody that found that it was really useful. Yeah. One person emailed me, and she had bought the book for herself, to help herself. She knew she was under stress and feeling like she was burnt out. And so she read through it and found it really helpful. And then at the end, she thought, I think this might help my husband. And so she went through it all with him. And the 2 of them compared their Burnout Shield responses, because the book is really helpful, and it's laid out knowing that you are under stress and don't have a lot of time. If you're burnt out, you don't have a bunch of time. So it's really made for you to be able to read, just, jump through the parts that are really helpful to you. There's a whole quiz chapter, so you can do the quiz and find out how strong is your Burnout Shield. And then you can skip to the chapters that say, here's how to strengthen that area of the shield, or here's how to keep this part of the shield really strong. So she had read that and filled out the quiz chapter and figured out her own vulnerabilities and the areas of strength. And then she read it to her husband and helped, like the 2 of them were filling out his answers and plotted out his Burnout Shield, and they compared next to each other, like, oh, and she said it was awesome, because then all of a sudden they understood each other even better. And he was saying, that's why you want to go connect with your friends more often. Your community part is so vulnerable. That makes total sense. Let's make time for you to go connect with your, people that you like to hang around with, who will help you feel, reinforced and reinvigorated. And she was looking like, oh, you need more self-care time. That's why you might want just either private time or time to go do the things that help you take care of yourself. That makes total sense. So
not only did they all both find it helpful for themselves, but it helped them as a couple understand each other even better and be able to understand that motivation of why these things were so important to include in their lives, is to really keep them engaged in life and feeling, because engagement is the opposite end of the spectrum of burnout. So when you're really burnt out, you can't be engaged. You don't have the capacity, mental or physical capacity. And then when you're really, really healthy and happy and capable, that other end of the spectrum is like full on engagement, like just let me at life. I'm here. So yeah. And when you're married, you want that person you're married to feel like, yeah, bring it on, life. Woohoo. So yeah, I was really glad to hear that was something so useful. And I get emails a lot from people who, as they're reading through it, they're like, I just got to this chapter. I had no idea. Like they took the Holmes and Rahe stress scale, just saying like, I'm near the top of that possible, like extremely high level of stress. This is an important thing. And so, the book is really helpful to give people a visible way to translate all the things that they've been feeling, a visible way to see it all in one place and just say, okay, it gives it, makes you feel justified that you're exhausted.
Yeah. That was my first reaction when I met you. It was like, oh my goodness, it's a thing. It's not just something I made up. It's a thing. It's not that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I could talk to you all day, but we've come up to about the end of our half hour. So what I want to say is that our free gift that we're offering together is something that I call the Burnout First-Aid Kit. And what it is the Burnout Shield, and just a little bit of information to help you estimate where you are on the Burnout Shield and to get an idea of where to start if you're burned out. And we believe it'll be very helpful as you take all the information you've collected from this summit and kind of plug it into that shield so that you can keep what's important to you close to you and have an instant reminder.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I will send out the link, as I always do with the interview, so that you can get your free copy. And thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Marnie Loomis, and thank you so much for being my friend.
Oh, yes, you're welcome. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And just enjoy the book and let us know if you like it. We love your feedback. So, and take good care of yourself.
Take care good. Yes, absolutely. Take care good.
Take care good. Oh, my goodness. All right. Bye.
Bye.